Alright everyone, welcome back again to more Misericorde Volume 2, White Wool and Snow. Hope you all having a good time, guys, or a good day at the very least, because in this app, we get some truths at long last. Some very meaningful truths, some still half, the other we're still left in the dark, but all the while it's still something to ponder upon, and all thanks to, well, the bothersome Eustice. We'll find out more as we continue on, but if anything else, I just want to leave you with that little bit of tidbit, and we'll continue on from there. So if anything else, hope you all continue to enjoy. Thank you again for love and support, and let's see this game through. After a moment of contemplation, Eustice nodded. Apology accepted. I don't think she needed to apologize, truth be told. Anyone would get a little worked up, let alone someone cooped up their whole life thrust into all this. I agree. I mean, I'm a little offended, but I shouldn't be. Makes sense why you were acting so bloody weird. But yeah, apology accepted here too. Or not needed. I don't know. Everyone reached out to touch me. My shoulders, my back, my side. It was meant to be reassuring, but I held my breath in fear. The whole congregation responded at once. I had no intention of honoring my words. Smart girl. I pondered, however, as we began our walk back toward the Abbey, whether it might be best to make good on my apology. What did I have to gain by continuing to lie? Not much. Not anymore. Once Eustice was arrested and gone, I would be able to make real amends. Live the relaxed life that she was promising me just without her as a part of it. I could just barely make out the silhouette of the Abbey in the distance, surrounded by little white tents peeking out from behind the hill. Almost my whole life had been spent here. My whole life would be spent here. My whole life will be spent here. The waters were choppy now, but what if I just held on to something to get through all of this? All storms pass. All waters return to a state of calm eventually. Would this pain and guilt last until I made it to Charity's age? To Marta's age? I watched them walk, each of them helping the other with sections of the trail and terrain that gave them trouble. Would I have someone like that in my life when I grew old? Not if I continued to upset and betray these women. Not if I kept pushing them away. Behind me, Eustice tripped, nearly sending her torch rolling down the hill. I managed to catch it, stomping out the patch of grass I had almost lit. Everyone turned to see what had happened, but by the time they had, Eustice had already composed herself and retrieved the torch from my extended hand. Thank you. A little further down the hill, Flora spoke up. So, who is the ghost then? I winced. We said. That was Eustace's silly prank, Flora, remember? That's right. Even the one that chased me, broke my leg? I was worried it was Captain the Second at one point, but I don't know. Everyone stopped and turned to face Flora. What do you mean? Well, just if we're having a big heart-to-heart and getting it all off our chests, who was the ghost? It was nobody. I took up the light. Ah, freaking BS. Absolutely not. It was real, and Hedwig saw it too. Isn't that right, Hedwig? Well, I might have. Come on. It is hard to deny what I saw. Something. But harder still to believe it. I thank God that Angela was not here, but I felt awful leaving Flora in the lurch. Hedwig? Are you serious? What other explanation is there? I assessed my options as quickly as I could. Flora was correct. There was no denying what we had seen. Likewise, there was no explaining what Angela and I had seen. A pang of regret struck my heart as I looked into Flora's eyes. That was the one problem living up to my new promise to the congregation. Being open and truthful and leaving the investigation behind me meant ignoring the very real, unnatural occurrences we had witnessed. What would happen if I admitted to witnessing them now? Eustice would catch on to me immediately. Only I, Flora, and Angela knew of the mystical nature of Eustace's likely crimes, and only Angela knew that I suspected Eustace. There was no way to explain this to Flora here in front of everybody else. Neither path before me was entirely truthful. Something strange happened to us that night, Flora, but it wasn't one of these women, and it wasn't a ghost. We were swallowed by the dark of night, I think. An odd noise in the black hallway becomes a terrifying monster very easily. Eustice nodded approvingly. Flora, however, looked as if her spirit had given up. Yeah, I suppose you're right. She should go with her plan of later explaining to Flora, that later, she'll explain to her that she still believes what they saw, but she can't say that in front of everyone else at the moment. It's too dangerous. Or, not as dangerous, but it's still something you need to keep to yourself, or at least to a certain small group, like her and Angela. The journey back to the Abbey continued. My heart ached. If only I could tell Flora that what I had done for her. I prayed the Superior would act swiftly so I could tell her the truth. Something landed on my nose. I wiped it off instinctively. It melted in my hand immediately. I looked up into the sky to see countless flecks of light dancing in the torchlight. It had begun to snow. That night, I dreamed of pikemen in pursuit once more. I woke up the next morning feeling chilly. When my feet touched the stone floor as I got out of bed, I inhaled sharply. It was so cold that it was a little shocking. Did I skip that? It said I made my way to whatever. The whole world was white. I was still reeling from last night's conversation. I mulled my options over again as if I hadn't made my choice already. Poor Flora. I squirmed. The floor really was remarkably cold. Too curious to let the opportunity pass, I walked to the center of the room and laid down. The sensation of frigid stone against my skin woke me up faster than any breakfast could. It was difficult to stay in one place without wincing. Eventually, I retreated and stood back up to get dressed. I felt rather invigorated. Flora would forgive me once I told her the whole story. She was young. But what was James? This question stuck in my mind for a while as I pulled my clothes on. Did I need to know? He was gone. The spell Eustice had taught him had worked, it would seem. Perhaps I had taken him far away, so far away that I need not worry. I could hear the doors opening. I flattened my robes against my body and left the room. Can someone light a fire already? It's bloody cold. Yeah, I'm on it. Has everyone seen the snow? It's beautiful. Looks the same as it does every year. I didn't join in, but I stood next to the conversation and smiled amiably. With a loud creak, Catherine's door opened. She and Margaret emerged, yawning and stretching. Lovely weather we're having. Can we please get Oh, Eustice has already taken care of it. Thanks. Catherine crossed the room and entered Flora's. Idle chatter continued. Adela emerged from her room and expressed the same desire for warmth as the others. Then she noticed Eustice busying herself by the fireplace just as they had. The fire roared to life finally. Darcy's doors opened. My heart caught in my throat, but I relaxed as soon as she emerged. She looked far better than she had the last time I'd seen her. Everyone cheered for her, and she chuckled, waving them off. I am fine. I can tell you all about it later. She looked for me in the crowd, and when our eyes met, she winked slowly. Slowly? I smiled back, feeling genuinely relieved. Flora's door opened, and worry gripped me as Catherine wheeled her out. However, I was relieved once again to see that Flora was chipper and animated. In fact, she looked happier than I had seen her in a long time. Bridget and Violet emerged from their rooms as well, and they too looked bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. There she is. There they are. Did you see the snow? It's so pretty. I love snow. Aye, as do I. The pair of them followed Catherine and Flora out of the dorm, chatting loudly. The rest of us left soon after. Snow now coated the cloister grass, which hid the ugly divots that had been left in the dirt by the builders. Ahead of me, Adela paused to take it all in, a wistful tone in her voice. Snow. I suppose a bonfire is out of the question tonight. Probably best to just gather in the Misericorde instead. But we cannot invite everyone to that. I was hoping that more would be able to attend. That's a good point. We'll think of something. Have you seen snow before, Hedwig? I've seen it outside of my window many times before. But have you touched it? I thought back to the handful of times little piles of snow had formed on my windowsill in the cell. I had held them in my hand and felt them melt, but that was different than being in the snow. I've never walked through it. Not that I can remember, at least. Perhaps as a child, but not as I am now. As we walked through the cloister toward the chapel, Adela stooped down low and gathered some snow in her hand. Before I knew what was happening, she whipped her wrist forward, planting a ball of snow square on my chest. Adela! I'm sorry, it was hard to resist. Here, watch this. She picked up more snow and whipped it forward faster and harder toward the nearest figure ahead of us. Ow! What in... Adela looked mortified as the woman ahead of us turned around angrily. Sorry, Sister Angela. That was highly inappropriate. She shot me a wounded look. Somebody might get hurt. I apologize again, Sister Angela. It will not happen again. Angela turned away and continued walking. Adela cleared her throat and we continued onward to service. That morning service went on by in a blur. Afterward, I followed the superior to our office on the pretense of continuing our chess lessons. I was anxious. The longer I used to stay at the Abbey, the more nervous I became. When would she be detained? I was not good enough in actions to pretend forever. We have time for one game, I suppose. I am rather busy today. Oh, what with? The Abbey does not run itself, Sister Hedwig. There are many things I do day to day. She relented somewhat while she arranged pieces on the board. Today, however, I have paperwork. I must update our benefactors in the state of their sherry. Between you and me, I'm not sure why they're so insistent on such regular contact. The order isn't due for the better part of a decade. People like knowing where their money went, Mabel. Oh, so the bishop is still here. The bishop had emerged from the side of the room. He looked worn down. He appeared to be in the middle of packing a rather large case. True enough, I find it difficult to keep them abreast of any developments, however. It still tastes disgusting. That's why Adela is here. Of course. By the way, did you know Sir Crispin has sent one of his men away? When were you speaking with Crispin? During service this morning. Ah, what happened? A pulley flew loose and struck a young fellow's jaw the other day. Nearly took it clean off. I daren't even imagine. Good heavens. Well, it's dangerous work even in the best of circumstances. All that heavy stone and taut rope. I simmered quietly, saying nothing. He'll be in a hospice care for a long while. Maybe the rest of his life should he not heal. Which reminds me, what of poor Sister Flora's condition? The superior made her opening move and I tried to focus on the game. I'm not certain. Mara tells me the sore of injury must set and rest for a long while. We've done all we can. Time must take care of all else. The bishop clicked his tongue in pity. So young. Perhaps I could have her transferred somewhere a touch more populous. The poor girl must be lonely here, the youngest and all. What's wrong with Limbarrow? It might not be the best environment for such a temperamental spirit. She's a budding young artist, is she not? She would fare well in Italy. Perhaps Denmark. Ask her. Our game continued quietly. The silence was colder than the snow outside. I think she'd be thrilled because she was always talking about wanting to leave. But I don't know, maybe she formed closer bonds with the sisters, who's to say? Finally, I risked broaching the subject I had come to discuss. What do you plan to do about Eustice? I haven't made any decisions yet. She was playing aggressively. So aggressive that there were more mistakes than usual for me to take advantage of. If only I could have found such a weak flank in the conversation. And what should we do about James? Refresh my memory, Hedwig. How does Eustace make any sort of sense as a culprit? She lied about the smoke in the morning Catherine was found. She burned down the sacristy, and I found a piece of bone in the wreckage. And a mysterious benefactor taught both Flora and James the same magic spell. That bone could have been used for ritual purposes, and it would stand to reason that one who killed Catherine would want to set her conspirator free. I could tell I was coming up short. I could not explain the real evidence I had witnessed, the missing books in the impossible library. And what would this ritual do? Well, I don't know. And the boy did disappear. I'm concerned that magic may well be involved. All told, it was a rather strange set of coincidences. I won't deny that. Thank you for the report, Hedwig. You know, in my honest opinion, you should probably show her the quote-unquote impossible library. I mean, if you were able to show Angela that, and she was freaked out by that very same mysterious phenomenon, if you will, then so will the superior, although she'll probably be more... Well, okay, she'll be bothered, but she'll be more susceptible to your, to your intentions now because of the fact that she now understands that what you saw may actually be something worth noting. You may go. But right now, she doesn't believe. The conversation was over. All I could do now was hope that I had presented my case well enough to solidify Eustace's guilt. I want Eustace out already. I don't care if her intentions is purely to help her fellow sisters. The way she goes about it, in my opinion, is too aggressive and wrong. Bullheaded even. I left the office in a hurry. My mind was racing. I replayed my argument over and over in my head. And we still don't know for certain if it was Eustace or whomever that did kill Catherine II. I could have done a better job. I was not sure how, exactly, but I knew I could have. Whoa. Be careful, Sister Hedwig. I apologize, Adela. Are you well? You look incredibly cross. I apologize, Adela. I was just off in my own little world. I saw you following the Superior to our office after service. Were you in trouble? And as such, no. What could I say? One more lie? A half-truth? All would sort itself out once Superior finally detained Eustace. I had to believe in that. She's been teaching me chess when we can squeeze a few games in here and there. I was thoroughly trounced, I'll have you know. Look for a lesson in every defeat, Sister Hedwig. Do not despair. I won't. Ah, that's sage advice. We began walking. You look tired. We are planning an outing for the day if you need something to take your mind off your worries. An outing? I wanted to host another bonfire, but the snow would make that rather difficult. So, we were thinking of just taking a nice walk into the hills to enjoy the snow. How does one enjoy the snow? Does it involve throwing it? Yes, and more. You can sledge on it. You can build things. Certainly, Adela. I would enjoy a walk at the very least. She beamed and pulled me to an embrace. Come and meet us under the archway soon. She jogged away, presumably to round up the rest of the sisters. I made my way to the dorms to collect the traveling cloak from my room. I was the first to make it to the archway. The men's camp was rather quiet. I could hear idle conversation here and there, but most of them were resting inside their tents. Oh, Hedwig. Glad to get you alone. Greetings, Sister Eustace. No need to be so formal. She glanced around and stepped closer. How are you faring? You know, after last night. Oh, I am pleased that we cleared the air. We can leave it at that. I'd rather not, if it's all the same to you. There's a lot I want to tell you, and more that I can't. The others know where to meet us. Take a walk with me? She seemed slightly agitated. Did she know she was cornered? I was wary of leaving with her alone, but pride overrode my good sense. I'd already won, I thought to myself. It was only a matter of time. Ugh, I hate when people think like this. At the very least, go with caution. Very well. We made our way down the road from the Abbey. Eustace walked fast, taking a path very similar to the one we had taken to the graveyard. It was occasionally difficult to keep up. Once we reached a relatively flat spot past the hillocks, she stopped, apparently satisfied. We used to come here a lot. Me, Margaret, Moira, and Catherine. Nice view. Not a chance of being overheard. Oh, I don't like this. What is this about, Eustace? I'm relieved that you took my gambit well last night. I want to apologize for putting you in that position first of all. How long had the others been under the impression that I thought Catherine was still alive? That is a rather ugly thing to have accused me of. A while. I'm sorry. I see it in the meeting prior to the one you stumbled into. Everyone else has been whispering about it for days at least. My contingency plan. It's a shame that it ended up being necessary. I've been worried for some time that everyone thought I was mad, and that I was being excluded from certain things. It was a rather ugly feeling discovering that my worries were well-founded. I gathered that those meetings are a regular occurrence around here? Yes. And when we found you eavesdropping in the chapel, I saw an opening I couldn't miss. It was all too easy to take control of the narrative. There's no need to rub it in, Eustace. You got what you wanted. Everyone thinks I'm quite mad. In fact, I just went and told the Superior that I was done with it all as well. It's all over. It's in her hands now. Really? That's good to hear. I have not relished this. I hope you understand. I realize I have been a bit of a bear to deal with. At first I was infuriated, and then I was worried. When I found you dancing around the grass naked, I wondered if I'd done enough. Then I began to worry that I might have broken you. I dislike interfering with others. Oh, really? I prefer to leave things alone. I suppose I made that impossible for you. Yes. Anyway, I wanted to tell you something else. I think now that you have agreed to put it all to rest, I owe you the truth. You couldn't have told me the truth from the very beginning? Frankly, no. And you'll understand why, I think. You see, Sister Catherine, she was not well. She had visions, much like Darcy does. I always enjoyed hearing about them. They were often gibberish, but the imagery was arresting. And some of them were more focused. There was something inspiring about watching her learn from them, or at least try to learn from them. Some of these visions guided her towards making music. Others got her feeling a bit poetic. And sometimes, she would burst into rooms ready to tell us all about how God had told her that it was time to really do something about the greed of the rich. None of this sounds particularly troubling, and it didn't to me either, not at the time. Which is why one day, when she came to me with her most rabid plan of action, yet I did nothing to stop her. She wanted someone killed? Ah, so you've heard. Nothing substantive. Can't read that word. Substantive. But yes, I caught wind of it. She had received a vision, she said, of such horror, such importance that extreme action had to be taken. Who did she want to kill? She believed that she had seen a vision of the Antichrist, and she believed it was her duty to stop him. I stood there stunned. I know, and I was foolish enough to believe her. She shared this vision with me, Moira, and Margaret. We were the most trusted confidants. Her fervor was so infectious, it was difficult to see the forest for the trees. And by the time I started having second thoughts, it was far too late to say or do anything about it. In the back of my mind, I just assumed that she would get tired of it and move on to something else. So how did she die then? It was James, Hedwig. It was just random. An awful, unexpected solution to a problem I let get out of hand. Do you really believe that? Yes. I find this hard to accept. Why act so mysterious? Why try to scare me toward the truth? Because I was ashamed, Hedwig. Ashamed and involved. I had the opportunity, or so I thought, to lay this all to rest without sharing too much. If only I just accepted the story. But I suppose that was always out of the question. You are primed by the superior to suspect everyone, everything, and accept anything but the real truth. I knew you had caught on about the smoke too, by the way. Margaret told me. I put it together. I think we all might have. She did? But you have to understand, Hedwig, that people have lives that continue when they're outside of your vision. I understand the impulse to try and map everything out neatly, to strategically navigate between people and map out who was where and when and why. But you have always acted as if the world only moves when you're looking at it, and that's only natural for someone who has lived the way you have lived for so long. But the simple fact of the matter is this. People talk, and everyone is more intelligent than you think. I'm sure everyone wanted to believe your absurd story about filling in the gaps, but when you started talking about smoke, it became obvious something was up. Be glad that I sated their natural suspicion with something relatively innocuous. Anyway, do you want to know why the smoke was an inconsistent detail? It was because I was burning all of the notes we had taken on Catherine's elaborate Antichrist fantasy. If this had gone out after her death, she would have been excommunicated. And so, the three of us who remained, either that, would be hanged. So, naturally, we agreed to omit smoke from our story should anyone ever ask. But you couldn't convince anyone else to follow suit? How could we? It required explaining everything I've just told you, and I don't trust everyone at the Abbey quite like that. I hardly trust you with it, but I did owe this to you, I think. I hope this can serve as something of a foundational apology. Something to build a real friendship on. I see. Well, I appreciate that. That still doesn't explain the more minute details I need to know. And it still doesn't make me forgive you for half the crap you've done. You're still, man. I want to use the word. I want to say it. But you know what? Nah. I was turning all over it in my mind. It made a sad kind of sense, but there were still missing pieces. Exactly. She's still hiding stuff. Enough for me to press my luck. What about the beast? You never saw it? Remember? What about the library? What about it? We stood in the snow. Eustice wasn't willing to back down, but neither was I. Ironically, a real answer might save her. She couldn't have known, but I was offering her a chance to exonerate herself. I want to know. If I'm owed all of that, I am owed the rest. Anything else beyond what I've told you is unrelated. And anything else that happens, well, is just something we'll have to live with. What I've just told you is something nobody else knows. I'm trusting you with the deepest, darkest secrets of my history. And Catherine's. You are entering a very small circle. Just you, me, Margaret, and Moira. I am just meant to live with the knowledge that there is something unexplainable out there? Something that might attack me? I'm done entertaining that particular fantasy of yours. That is your imagination. Ah, so that's the one thing we have over her. We have the mysterious library that has like some sort of supernatural thing that gives that has a supernatural what, space? Maybe a pocket dimension? I don't know. But she doesn't know of it, which is weird. And she doesn't know about the beast either, because me and Flora saw it. And she just thinks we're, whatever. I do not know anything about it, and I do not believe anything you have told me is real. Ha! Well, good. Hope the beast gets you. If you have seen anything, it is likely a product of your imagination. Yeah, I'm gonna say it. You're a bitch. I'm gonna say it. Full out. I don't care. You're a bitch. If you ignore it, it'll go away. No it won't. But Flora is a stupid teenager. There is nothing, Hedwig. Oh, so she just got hurt by some door? Really? Flora? The youngest of us all? The most spry one of the bunch? There never was. Accept it. And even if there was, you would never find it. How much evidence did you collect? How many notebooks could you have filled with speculation? As I have told you over and over again, you wouldn't have known where to begin. Looking for a needle in a haystack doesn't even begin to describe it. You didn't even know where the barn was. She wouldn't budge then. No matter. She was clearly desperate. Very well. Just one more question then. You threatened me with information about my own history. What do you think you know? Eustace looked at me candidly. Don't ask questions you don't want answered, Hedwig. That was fair enough. She could continue to be withholding until the gallows took her. Who would she spill my secrets to? The headsman? I'd won. Not every question had been answered, but I felt confident that I could deal with the rest afterward. Anyway, on to more amusing matters. What is it about showing yourself off that you enjoy so much? I was immediately knocked off balance by this salacious inquiry. Sudden flirtatiousness put me ill at ease. She wouldn't be acting like this if she knew that I was simply biding my time waiting on her arrest. I don't think that's an appropriate thing to ask me. Oh, come on. This is how friends talk. We're friends now, aren't we? You can confide in me. Perhaps I should just give it a go. She walked away, leaving me feeling rather dazed. She turned around and lifted up her skirt. Like this? After a few moments, she let the fabric fall back around her ankles. Huh. Perhaps it's a matter of timing. Perhaps. Oi! What are you two doing up there? The rest of the sisters had arrived. We're just enjoying the breeze. She shouted this down the hill to the others, then turned to me with a forced smile. Shall we? This isn't over, Eustace. Far from it.